Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here with another Master Duel video for you guys. Today in this one, we are going to be taking a look at our Tri-Brigade Zoodiac. Particularly, we're going to look at the some of the first games in Diamond this season, Season 6, that I played. And yeah, as soon as I got to Diamond 5, I was like, yeah, I'll switch back over to Tri-Zoo for a little while. And I'm glad I did. I had a lot of fun playing the deck. This is still the second night of the season that I'm recording this, and I'll show again, like the last video, I am ending off. I mean, I might still play a little bit more tonight, but I think I'm going to end off here on Diamond 4. I want to get to at least Diamond 5 tonight, so definitely don't mind being a little bit ahead of schedule there. And yeah, I mean, it was Tri-Zoo that took us from Diamond 5 up to 4, so kudos there. Might still play Tri-Zoo a little bit more. Currently, my plan is to switch back over to Swordsoul Tenyi for probably the rest of the climb, but we'll see. You know, we'll just see how it goes. Tri-Zoo definitely did not do me wrong in Diamond, though. We got a lot of quality games for us to look at. Just a lot of interesting matchups, too. This climb has been a lot nicer than I thought it was going to be. I guess I'm still reeling a bit from the Season 5 climb, which fellow tryhards who like to ladder a lot right at the beginning of the season, you guys remember too, I'm sure, the hell that was Season 5, because not only was like Drytron out in full force because it was about to get hit, and everyone who had the deck wanted to get one last hurrah out of it before it got hit, but that was also the introduction of Diamond 1, so we got knocked down from Plat 1 down to Gold 5, and then we had to climb through Gold, then Plat, then Diamond, so I guess I was still like reeling a bit from that climb last season, and then I totally even forgot, like, until it actually happened. I was like, oh yeah, I don't have to climb up through 3 ranks, like I just have to climb up through Plat and Diamond. That's not going to be quite as bad. So, and it hasn't been quite as bad, so that's nice. Yeah, as far as the build itself, I haven't made any changes as I've been climbing. I still like these 40 cards pretty nicely. Especially the crossouts. Been loving the crossouts. I'm really glad I added those towards the end of the last season there. And you're going to see coming up in these games that crossout plays a huge factor. I've been seeing it a lot, like in all the videos I've been putting out this week, but I feel it's a point that really does like bear kind of drilling in. Like, if you haven't crafted crossout designators and you have the materials for it, you should definitely craft at least 2, if not a playset. Well, it also depends on the deck that you're playing, right? Most decks that play Crossout only need 2, but there are a few, like Swordsoul Tenyi, like Prank Kids, that do definitely more or less need 3. Now, I don't know about need 3, they don't require it, but they're much better with 3. But, you know, even in decks in general, like, I definitely recommend 2 Crossout Designator. And you might be thinking, like, well, but you didn't always play Crossout Designator. And no, I didn't. Even when I had it, I wasn't always playing Crossout Designator in Tri-Zoo. I didn't really think it was needed before now. Oh, sorry, bumped the desk there. I didn't really think it was really needed before now, but this season, this meta in particular, Crossout Designator is much more of a factor, and it's because of Swordsoul Tenyi. Now, you might be thinking, well, why does Swordsoul Tenyi playing... Like, why does Swordsoul Tenyi affect us playing Crossout when it's not like a mirror match? It's still only hitting hand traps, right? Well, the thing is, as Crossout gets played more and more in a meta, it kind of like is a self, and again, I've talked about this already, but it bears repeating. It's kind of like a self-feeding cycle, right? The more Crossout is played, the more like unique answers that people start playing for Crossout. Like, people will start taking one-of hand traps to get with Crossout, and also just because they're good in general. Then you kind of have to start like playing Crossouts and teching against other people who are also teching against their own hand traps, or, you know, playing a variety of answers. Like, the more variety of answers there are, the more variety of responses you need, and Crossout Designator is just going to bring that variety very easily, being able to not only giving you a reason to play a variety of answers, but also being able to hit a huge variety of answers in and of itself. Plus, you know, even if it's not the top deck, Tri-Zoo is still a tier 1 deck and is still extremely popular. So mirror matches are absolutely still going to be a fairly common thing. So Crossout, like, the more popular your deck is, that's another thing that makes Crossout better. The more popular a deck is, the better Crossout gets in your deck. So, it just, again, it's like Crossout Designator is kind of like a self-feeding cycle in that regard. And again, you know, before this last ban list and all these new cards came out, we did see a meta where, like, yeah, Crossout saw play, but not a lot of play, which is, you know, that sounds kind of like that seems kind of dumb to put it that way. It's like, well, Crossout didn't see much play because Crossout wasn't seeing a lot of play. But again, it works in the opposite, right? Crossout starts seeing more play the more people are playing Crossout. Again, it doesn't really sound like it makes sense when you phrase it that way. I don't know. I'm sure you guys understand what I mean. I'm really good at talking in circles, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of quash that for now. Let's go ahead and break down this list card by card. Like I said, though, it hasn't changed since the list I shared at the beginning of the season a few days ago. So we've got 3 Tri-Brigade Nervall, 3 Maxx, 2 Tri-Brigade Kerass, 3 Tri-Brigade Kitt, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 1 Ghost Belle and Haunted Mansion, 1 Destiny Hero Celestial, 1 Zoodiac Whiptail, 1 Zoodiac Thoroughblade, 1 Zoodiac Ramram, 2 Tri-Brigade Fraktall, 1 Destiny Hero Dasher, 1 Nibiru, the Primal Being, 1 Harpie's Feather Duster, 2 Fusion Destiny, 1 Lightning Storm, 3 Fire Formation Tenki, 2 Call by the Grave, 2 Crossout Designator, 2 Forbidden Droplet, 2 Infinite Impermanence, and then 2 Tri-Brigade Revolt. Down here in the extra deck, we've got 1 Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, 1 Zoodiac Trident, 1 Zoodiac Borbo, 1 Zoodiac Chakanine, 1 Divine Arsenal Zeus Sky Thunder, 1 Salamangreat Almirage, 1 Predaplant Vert Anaconda, 1 Ancient Warriors Oath Double Dragon Lords, 1 Tri-Brigade Ferrijit the Baron Blossom, 1 Tri-Brigade Bearbrum the Rampant Rampager, 1 Tri-Brigade Rugal the Silver Sheller, 1 Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, 1 Axis Go Talker, and then 2 Tri-Brigade Shurg the Ominous Omen. And sorry, I remember it halfway through going through the list that I slightly misspoke there. Our list hasn't changed since the last video. At the beginning of the season, that list did have Racevulgar over Appaloosa, but we did make that change as of the last video, but there haven't been any more changes since then, is what I meant to say. Yeah, in particular, I also wanted to mention I'm really liking having 2 of all of these cards down here at the end. Like, I like having, well, obviously you can only have 2 call buys, but I like having the two crossouts, the 2 droplets, the 2 imperm, and then the 2 revolt. I really like these ratios. And I do still like having the 2 droplets in the deck. You know, it might be tempting to think like, oh, Drytron isn't around anymore, we can take Droplet out. But, you know, obviously Droplet is still really good against Swordsoul. It's good going first against Swordsoul, against, you know, obviously Moye and Halki Fibrax, like any other effects similar to Imperm and Valor are. But in addition to that, it's also good going second. If our opponent ends on like Chi-Shao plus Baron, we can use Droplet to potentially break their board and then start comboing off ourselves without having to worry about getting hit with those negates they like to put out. So, and then of course, obviously one of the main strengths of this deck is that we are currently the highest rated deck on the tier list, and in my opinion, the best deck in the meta that can easily utilize DPE, which is a very, very powerful card. And it's funny, you know, for as much as like, oh, DPE is played in every deck now and everybody just uses DPE, like going through my games here that I've shared and that I've been, you know, watching back over, and obviously all the games I've been playing just in general, I'm not seeing like nearly as much GPE as I, or in general, you think you would, in a very meta heavy ladder like this. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's funny. Obviously, DPE is still a very good card, and DPE is just, in general, still making a pretty huge splash in the meta, but it's just not coming up as often as I thought it would, which is, I'm fine. We'll take it. That's totally fine. Could also be that I'm playing more Swordsoul Tenyi than Tri-Zoo, and DPE tends to be a little bit worse against that deck than it does against Tri-Zoo, so maybe the people who do have DPE just aren't going for it as often. I don't know. That seems kind of like a niche case scenario, but oh geez, yeah. I'm looking at my timer. You guys are here for games. I've rambled on long enough. Let's watch some gameplay. So, first game of this video is actually going to be the first game of in Diamond this season for me. So, it's funny, if you watched the last game of my last video, that was my last game in Platinum, and now this is the very next game I played, which is now with Tri-Zoo in Diamond. So we get our opening hand, looks pretty good. Tenki, a couple of droplets, Kerass, and Ash. But our opponent actually ashes the Tenki. I mean, I guess if they'd waited for the Fraktall, I would have had to have stopped here anyway, but had to have stopped here anyway. I said that right, didn't I? I don't know. But in any case here, yeah, we're just going to have to set the droplet and pass. But of course, we are going to want to set the droplet alongside the Tenki here. So opponent normal summons Doki Doki and then discards a card. Now, I know from my time playing Adamancipator that if that's the opening line you have to go for, your hand is not that great, because this is one of the most easily stoppable opening lines in the game. So, I don't know about in the game, but this Doki Doki is a lot like Rescue Cat in that it's just so easy to hit with just about any hand trap under the sun. So I do stop and think for a moment here if I want to flip up Droplet or play an Ash here. I ultimately decide that if it's Adamancipator, I'm just going to go ahead and Ash it, because I don't want my opponent to like special summon a Researcher and then get that effect off, and then I can't Droplet. I mean, I guess I could have Ashed that as well, but I do think the Droplets are going to be a little bit more valuable than the Ash here, even though I have two. Not only for stopping my opponent's stuff, but also if they do end up getting a board off, having a Droplet to break their board is particularly nice. So I draw a call by here, and wow, we're going to have to go back to, this isn't even like, you know, 2001, like early TCG Yu-Gi-Oh! Or 2002. This is like 1999 early OCG Yu-Gi-Oh! Here, right? Where my opponent's got a 500 attack monster, I summon a 1200 attack monster and battle over it, and then I'm gonna pass after setting a card. Like, yeah, definitely a slow game here, but nothing wrong with that. Definitely do want to battle over that Doki Doki though, so it doesn't get the chance to use its effect again at next turn. So we'll go ahead and drop the called by and then pass here. Our opponent's hand is just not that great either, as they set a monster and then pass, and then we draw a Kitt. So now everything is obviously looking up hugely for us. Opponent's going to max C, but we've got the called by, so no need to worry about that. I am still a little concerned about getting my Kitt Ash here, but even if that happens, there's still quite a few different lines we could do. So I did stop and think here for a moment. I was like, okay, I do have a couple of different options. I could link the Kerass and the Kitt into Farigite and then just try to summon whatever I get off that. Or, you know, I already have Tri-type set up in Graveyard. Well, actually I don't. I will have Tri-type set in Graveyard though if I Kitt and Nervall, and then I can just add something that I can, you know, then I can Kerass, banish those two, summon Farigite, and then summon whatever I add. So I ultimately decided to do it that way. The other thing too is, like I was just about to say, I am still thinking about Ash here because my opponent could still easily have that, especially given that their hand is dead. If your opponent is playing like a meta deck, but they're not doing really any of their combos, you should generally play assuming that they have a decent number of hand traps in their hand, as that's going to be likely the case if they're bricked. So thinking about if my opponent has Ash here, if they do have Ash, then this is fine because I can still go into Vert and then DPE and I'll be fine. And sure enough, they do have the Ash here, so... like I mentioned, we will be able to go into Verts, and you might be wondering, like, wait, how come you can use Almirage as a link material here? I'm never able to do that. The reason that you are often not able to use Almirage as a link material is because of the Tri-Brigade's effects. If you use this first effect, or not this first effect, the second effect of the Tri-Brigade monsters to, you know, banish stuff to summon a link monster, you can only use Beast, Beast Warrior, and Wing Beast monsters as link materials for the rest of the turn. So if you ever wondered why you can't use Almirage as link material, that's why. However, in this case, we did not activate that effect of Kerass or of any of our Tri-Brigade monsters this turn, so we don't have that restriction. So we can just link away our Almirage into our Kerass in order to summon Vert, and then we can use Vert to just set up a DPE. So yeah, that's like, DPE has been such a boon for this deck. I almost said Bane. I always get those words mixed up for some reason. But it's been such a boon for this deck because now these hands that are like, would often before be very dead, we now very much have plays. We can just go into DPE and everything's fine. And everything really is still fine here because we've got droplets on top of the DPE, so... Yeah, opponent's going to summon the Xeno Guitar and run over our Vert, but then I think they just concede after doing that. Yeah, because they realize, like, oh, even if I, you know, even with DPE popping the Xeno Guitar and getting the Xeno Guitar's effects, there's not really anything meaningful they can, like, do with that. And if we're both in top deck mode, obviously the person with the DPE is going to do better than the person who does not have a DPE. So, all right, let's go ahead and look at the next game. This next game here is going to be against the Mirror Match, but it's actually a variant of Tri-Zoo that's not playing DPE, so it's kind of seems like it's from, you know, last format, which you can get away without DPE in Tri-Zoo, but it adds so much. Like we talked about at the end of that last game, it just unbricks so many. Like this one, I seriously didn't even intend to, like, use this game as an example of what I was just about to talk about, but it really is a prime example of what I was just talking about at the end of the last game. Like, this hand is totally dead without DPE, but since we had Fusion Destiny as well, it's just a one-card, like, you know, quick, easy play there. Not going to Ash this Maxx C, by the way, because if my opponent's just getting a 1-for-1 draw, like with the Maxx C, I don't really care about that. That's fine. Would rather save my Ash to disrupt their turn, but like, Yeah, I mean, like, you know, ordinarily, if we opened, like, Kerass and then a bunch of others, like, we would just have to pass. I mean, yeah, we'd have C, Ash, and Crossout and, you know, whatever, but it's still obviously not ideal. I mean, this obviously isn't ideal. Like, normally, ideally, you open with at least DPE plus Revolt, but, you know, we'll take at the very minimum DPE. That's totally fine. And because we have C and Ash and Crossout Designator on top of that, I'm feeling very, very confident going into this play with a hand that, again, well, obviously with Fusion Destiny, we wouldn't have had this anyway, but, you know, before DPE came out, that would have been a hands like that would have been much, much worse. So, opponent's going to normal summon a Thoroughblade. I'm immediately going to fire off Maxx because I know if you know, I know all too well, if you normal summon a Zoodiac, you are going to go into some amount of Xyz summoning that turn, so. Yeah, opponent goes for the Trident and then battles into my DPE here. I know what they're doing. Like, I know they're going for a Zeus here, which they sure enough comes out right away. You know, obviously I have a lot of experience with this deck, and I'm totally fine with this. Like, I don't feel the need to pop the Trident in response because, yeah, if they summon a Zeus, that's totally fine. That's more draws for me. And if they try to activate Zeus, then I can use DPE's effect in response. Now, I was a little bit concerned about maybe if they tried to get a 4 material Zeus out, but again, if they started climbing into more Zoodiac monsters, like if they had overlaid another Zoo monster on top of the Trident, then I think it would have just DPE'd and popped itself and the Zoo monster. But since they just went battled and then attacked me and then went to main phase 2, I'm like, okay, I'll give them a chance to summon Zeus. That's totally fine. And sure enough, they do. And yeah, they also go to activate Zeus's effect here, but you know, I'm just going to go ahead and respond with DPE. And they have the droplet revealing, you know, what they were up to this whole time. But I've said it before, I've said it again. This is why I like Crossout Designator so much. I get to use it as a quick play spell version of Solemn Judgment right here. And yeah, we'll just send our own droplet, stop theirs, and then they just concede at that point because they're not able to do anything else about it. I wanted, even though this game was relatively short and didn't have a whole lot of back and forth, I really wanted to show it. It's funny, I actually intended to show it only to show like how powerful Crossout Designator is in this deck right now, and why it can be nice to play, you know, a variety of stuff, like why I'm still playing Droplets. Another reason is to hit it with Crossout. Droplet's not super popular right now because Swordsoul is so popular and Swordsoul can't play Droplet. I always do that when talking about Crossout and Droplet. I just say Dropout, but you know, other decks are playing Droplet, so it is still good to have them to Crossout, and then also Droplet is also good. I've said these points a million times before, but I feel they really do bear repeating. Because I don't know, I'm the kind of person who needs to hear something probably 5 different times for it to really click, so I don't know, I guess I just assume other people are the same way. But this game also did end up being a really good example of what makes DPE so great in this deck. And again, you can, like my opponent is doing, get away without playing DPE in your Tri-Zoo deck, but just know that I don't know, I do think that is a less than optimal version of the deck. Whether or not you include Rescue Cat, I do still think is more of a debate, but I think DPE should pretty universally be included in Tri-Brigade decks nowadays. All right, let's go ahead and look at the next game. So this game is going to be against the mirror match here. I actually played a lot of mirror matches when I got into Diamond, which I was kind of surprised by, honestly. I thought I was going to see more Sword Souls, but if there are a lot of Tri-Brigade decks in Diamond right now, then that just makes me more inclined to play Swordsoul Tenyi because Swordsoul Tenyi's got such a good matchup there. So we're going second, and yeah, our hand is not looking very good here. We do have an Imperm at the very least, but yeah, we're playing Nervall. We've got Nervall, we've got Whiptail, and then we've got Celestial and Dasher. Like, it's bad enough when you open one of them, but to open both of them just feels like a real punch in the stomach there. So Boat's gonna summon Kerass here. I've seen a couple of people use the Kerass, but I do still think the Whiptail is just better than the Kerass. I tried Kerass a little bit myself. It never came up, even against Swordsoul Tenyi's. It just never came up that my opponent would, because it is a very specific interaction. Like, it's pretty specifically, well, I mean, I guess in that matchup, I mean, to be fair, like, it's not a bad card, and you could still make an argument to playing Kerass, but I don't think the inclusion of Chi Xiao in the format is enough of a reason to, like, full stop drop all Whiptails for Kerass across the board. Yeah, so I know what line my opponent is going for here. Again, being well-versed in this deck really helps. I know they're going for the Kitt plus Tenki combo line, so I know that I can imperm this Chakanine as a really good choke point here. So that's what I end up doing. We draw the Tenki to bail us out of this hand, thank God. We're going to use it for a Fraktall, since obviously we already have a Zoodiac monster in hand. And now that we're able to search a Kerass, I mean, we've got a variety of options here. I'm going to go ahead and pitch the Nervall in order to get the Kerass here. Or in order to get the Kerass out. Yeah, I did say that right. Opponent's got the Veiler in response, or a Veiler. The Veiler. I don't know. Either way. Doesn't matter. They have a response to our Kerass here, but I'm going to use Whiptail to go ahead and go into Borbo now in an attempt to try to get Zeus. But as I go to battle, my opponent's got the Imperm, so no dice there, unfortunately. I'm going to move into main phase 2. I'm going to go into Trident and pop my opponent's Chakanine, obviously, so that way they don't have that to use as a material for plays during their turn. And then I think, I figured to myself, well, I can still at least, go into Vert Anaconda here. Oh, right, yeah, they do have the Cataroost, of course, but, yeah, by forcing them to detach it now, they can't use Chakanine's effect to extend. Plus, I figure I'll just use the DPE to pop the Chakanine so they can't use it as material, because, yeah, I can still go into Vert Anaconda here pretty easily. We're going to pay 2,000, but then my opponent's got a second Imperm! They actually had the second Imperm and the Veiler here. So it's like, that's rough. This game just did not go well for me in pretty much any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, it looks like they're going to go and keep overlaying the Chakanine here, since obviously I didn't get a chance to pop it, really. Summoning Borbo. They then go for Kerass, banishing... they banish 4 for Shurig here, and they get rid of my Anaconda, which I don't think is necessarily wrong, but... I'm trying to figure out, because I feel like my opponent missed the lethal during this game, like on this turn specifically, and I'm watching what they're doing here to try to figure out. Yeah, okay, so they should have added... Hang on a second, let me see... They had Fraktalls left, right? Like, they had a Fraktall left? They might not have, actually, because they desired. I forgot about the desire, so maybe they didn't misplay. Maybe they were just playing around with what they had left in deck. And maybe they weren't playing Race Vulgar, because you can... Yeah, and then they just go to battle phase. They don't even try to use Bear Brum's effect. I don't know. I'd have to cross-reference my opponent's deck list to see, like, what all they could have potentially banished with desires, but... Couldn't they have had lethal here? I feel like they could have pretty easily found lethal there. But again, I could be wrong. I did forget about the desires, to be fair. But, yeah, opponent's got a really nice setup here. They got Zeus plus Appaloosa. So, unfortunately, with my very dead hand here, I'm just not going to be able to come back here. Yeah, obviously against a Zeus, like I said, a Zeus and an Appaloosa, that's... oh, and then, of course, they have a Revolt set up as well. So... Normally, I don't like showing games like this where I lose because I open poorly, but this game was such... Like, it was still close enough. It was, even though, like, it did kind of end up being one of those games, it was so close enough, and it really did come down to my opponent having not only all the combo stuff they had, but also exactly the Veiler and both Imperm in order to be able to stop me there, so... Alright, we still got a couple more games to check out, though. Let's go ahead and look at the next one here. Okay, so this next game is against Numerons, and I'm going to play a little bit weirdly here, so I want to preface this game by stating that I had actually played against this opponent the game before. I'm not going to show that game because it wasn't really very interesting. I did win, but it was just a pretty quick win. I basically negated their Planet Pathfinder, or it was some kind of search. I think it was either Planet Pathfinder or Terraforming. I negated that search, their attempt to get Numeron, and then they just kind of conceded very shortly after that. But I saw, same name, same icon, same setup, and I'm like, okay, Kevin, it's Kevin again. They're playing Numerons, so... sure enough, they actually lost this coin flip and they let me go first. So, normally I would think about, maybe doing Kitt for Almirage. I mean, not that I have something to discard for a Kerass I search anyway, but nope, I'm just going to go ahead and set the Droplet and pass here, because obviously if they're playing Numerons and I have nothing on board, then they can't, they can't OTK me. They can if they have limiter removal, but that is fairly niche, so... Let's go lead with a Mallet for 4 here. They've got a Lightning Storm for my Droplet, that's fine, I'm not too concerned with that. Terraforming, I can't stop. Yeah, I can't really stop any of the OTK here. I'll still cycle one of my Maxx's here, even though it's only one draw. Obviously, the card drawn off Maxx is going to be better than a second Maxx here, so... Oh wait, I remember. I Nibiru'd them. That's what happened. Maybe I should have shown that game. That actually kind of was interesting. Well, it wasn't that interesting. I just Nibiru'd them and then they conceded. That's right. So that's why I didn't show it. I'm remembering now. But yeah, I'll take my 4,000 here. Now I am still a little scared of what my opponent's going to link into. It actually ends up being Appaloosa, which I'm not really sure which I'm more afraid of, the Appaloosa or the Infinite Track. Well, in this matchup, I'm definitely slightly less afraid of the Infinite Track because I am playing Xyz monsters, but the Appaloosa is still a little bit scary here. I actually kind of pulled the trigger a little bit on that Feather Duster. I probably should have saved it because I didn't really have plays, you know, because my opponent's got an Appaloosa. So I'm going to have to chip it down over the course of a couple turns here. I'm going to set my Kitt in an attempt to do so, and obviously to not take a whole lot of damage because I'm still only at 4,000 here. Yeah, we'll force an activation from the Appaloosa. And then, yeah, I guess the plan right now is to just set Nervall next turn and do that. But then I draw this Whiptail, and I'm like, okay, if I have a Zoodiac, that's definitely another thing here. So, so I did Ash this intentionally, knowing it would get negated, and knowing I could still cross out anyway. Like, that was an intentional play on my part to, like, reduce Appaloosa's attack, but I don't really know that it was necessary, thinking back on it. It might have just been better just to save the Ash, potentially, because I still could have gotten around that Appaloosa, I think, without having to commit the Ash there to force a negation. Like, I don't think the number of negations was an issue there. I'd have to stop and think about it. I thought about it quite a bit in-game, too, and that was the conclusion I came to was that it was better to Ash, so maybe it was, and I'm just kind of misremembering. I don't know, but, yeah, you know, we're able to flip up the Crossout there, which is another game where Crossout Designator, I'm telling you, this card, even if you just use it as additional copies of Called By and not a lot else, it's still so good. But, all right, we've got one more game to watch here. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alrighty, last game for this video is going to be another mirror match. Like I said, I've run into a lot of mirror matches as soon as I got into Diamond, which, again, is making me a bit more inclined to continue on with Swordsoul Tenyi when I pick back up next. So, opponent's going to open here. This hand's pretty mediocre going second. We don't have any kind of hand traps, so we can't really interact with anything our opponent's doing. I am, however, a little excited to see the mirror match here, having opened Crossout Designator, because one of the main reasons I do like Designator in this build, or in this deck in general, this archetype, for mirror match purposes, is that it is so good for hitting Revolt. Having a one-card negation for Revolt is so useful. It doesn't come up often. This is the first time it's come up for me, but it's going to single-handedly win me this game. This is also another game where DPE is going to be really good. As you can see, without Fusion Destiny, all I really have here is Kitt and Nervall, but with Fusion Destiny, I have a really good option to open up into. Also, I think my opponent misplayed a little bit here. No, actually, I don't know if they misplayed so much as they just were kind of going for maybe a bit of a greedy line here. No, wait, yeah, maybe they just weren't. No, but I just looked at their deck. I think they are playing DPE. Yeah, well, yeah, they have a Celestial here. Oh, but the Celestials here, because they discarded with Bear Brum. I don't know, I think my opponent, I noticed this during the actual game itself. I kind of glossed over it now because I was talking, but if you go back and watch my opponent's turn, I'm pretty sure they did some out of misplaying. I feel like they should have been able to set up the DPE here alongside the Revolt, but yep, who knows? I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention. I just remember thinking that while I was actually playing the game. So I'm going to lead with a Kitt here to force the Revolt, which, like I said, I can just go ahead and cross out. And it's so, like, I can't even stress enough to you guys how good of a feeling it is to cross out Designator or Revolt. It's, like, the most clutch thing you can do. It really is. Because, like, look at this now. Our opponents use their DDL as well. Like, they just have nothing. They have absolutely nothing anymore. And that is kind of one of the scary things about playing Tri-Zoo sometimes, because sometimes your Revolt does get negated. It doesn't happen too often playing first, but it can happen. And you see with just how few resources you can, like, end up being stranded without, so. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, the Fusion Destiny is going to be very helpful here, so we're just going to go ahead and activate that. We'll run over the DDL in battle, and then I'll just use Phoenix Enforcer to pop itself and the Arugula here. I'll let them get the Kitt back to their hand. I don't want them to get the search, you know, and then the draw, so I'd rather than just have the Kitt bounce back to their hand. some of the DPE in, I almost said DDL, some of the DPE in defense mode here. Tenki I'm going to let resolve, because if I activate DPE to pop it and the Tenki, I can stop the Tenki from being the surge, but then of course my opponent can just summon Kitt, and they've got enough tri-types in here to summon whatever they want, so don't want that to happen. So I'll let them get the Tenki search. They end up getting a Thoroughblade. They summon the Kitt. I'm going to let this summon resolve as well, because if I pop the Kitt when it's summoned, then they'll just be able to search for a Kerass, which they can pitch the Thoroughblade and special summon. So I'll be more or less in the same spot. So yeah, like I said, gonna let the Tenki go, gonna let the Kitt go. And then my opponent summons Shurag. Obviously, if the Shurag resolves while DPE is on the board, it gets banished. So don't want that to happen. So I will activate DPE, and I'll pop the Shurag. I know that they're gonna get a Surge here, but I'm okay with that. Because they've already used their normal summon, they've already used this Kitt. And I don't think they actually add the Kerass here, which is kind of baffling if they don't. Okay, no, they do add the Kerass, that's right. Okay, for some reason I thought they didn't, I don't know why, but yeah, they go ahead and they special summon the Kerass here, and they actually do still have three things that they have a Race Vulgar, rather. They are playing that in addition to everything else, so they are going to get to put back my DPE, which does hurt, but and then, yeah, they're going to get to summon the Avert Anaconda here. However, you know, if we look at their graveyard, we see the Celestial, so I guess they forgot that they couldn't actually... Yeah, they must have forgotten, because they go to activate the effect, they just have to change their Race Vulgar to a Dark type, so... interesting that they have room for Race Vulgar... Well, I guess they're just not playing Appaloosa then, right? Or did they Appaloosa me? I feel like... No, I guess they didn't. Okay, so yeah, they are just playing it instead of Appaloosa. Yeah, we'll get some of the Dasher back thanks to DPE's effect here. I'm not going to get the Celestial draw anyway, so I'm not really concerned about it. And then we, you know, start to get the Almirage line off, and then I'm sure they realize now that, like, okay, our opponent's got plays. Funnily enough, I think they actually should have waited until I confirmed search and then summoned the Kerass, because it would have been pretty easy for me to, like, just not have it. Although I could have actually used, and I was thinking about this on the back burner just in case they had like an Ash or something. I was like, I can actually use Dasher's effect to tribute this Almirage and boost Dasher enough to run over my opponent's monster there. So it was a very like kind of a niche thing, but does come up, could have come up anyway. So yeah, that's all the games I've got for you. Let's go ahead and move over to the outro now. Okay, everybody, thank you as always for watching to the very end of the video like this. I genuinely appreciate that very much. So Tri-Zoo, I'm still liking it quite a bit in this format. I mean, obviously it's still a tier 1 deck, but I think that's a lot easier for most people to forget, honestly. Yeah, I've seen comments even in a couple of my videos saying that, like, why even bother with Tri-Zoo? The deck's trash anymore. Like, no. There's very much a difference between no longer being the top deck and then being trash. Like, you know, it's not like every deck besides the top tier 1 deck is trash. And especially Tri-Zoo is still very much a tier 1 deck. Like, it's still, like, even if it has a bad matchup against the other tier 1 deck, Swordsoul Tenyi, it's still got all the strengths it used to have before. Against the rest of the meta. And actually a strength that it has against the rest of the meta that Swordsoul doesn't is that this deck does play better in general, generally speaking rather, it plays much better going second than Swordsoul does. Now, this deck does have a hard time going second specifically against Swordsoul, which again might make this deck seem worse than it actually is, but no, I think Tri-Zoo is still a perfectly fine deck to ladder with. That said, I do think you should be playing DPE if you aren't already. You can, like I touched on earlier in this video, you can get away without it if you really need to, but I do definitely recommend DPE for pretty much any Tri-Brigade deck right now. So, yeah, that's about all I've got for you guys in this one. Like I said, I appreciate you watching. I'm especially appreciative if you are also commenting and subscribing. I love hearing your guys' suggestions about gameplay and deck building in the comments below. I find them incredibly helpful. I genuinely have one of the better comment sections I've ever seen on YouTube. Like, I'm not even just saying that because you guys are my comment section. Like it's just so many good comments that I see, and I love interacting and responding to comments. So definitely leave those there. And then if you want to see more videos like this, subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications for those. So without further ado, though, this is XLex signing out. Hope you guys have a fantastic day.